which really is synonymous with a prototype, that downforce, and less so with the JS2Rs. I'm told the JS2R top speed is not far away from a JS P4 down the Mistral straight, so that could make Lapri a touch difficult as we get later into the race. So, race 3 of the season. This is all combining to form Heat 2 of the year, and the 60 minutes start to tick down with a good start from both Virage cars, but arguably the second row have started even better with Romain Favre looking for a way by on the inside line, but he's not going to be late enough on the brakes. There's somebody else with a big moment. It was, in fact, Favre going a little too deep into Verrerie, and a squirm and slide as well from the number 3 car. But it's getting in amongst the two Virage machines. So Virage not with their 1-2 anymore. Again, a huge lockup though for which car is that? The number 6.
In Aguilera. It was the 77 car with the big lockup.
Yeah, so Aguilera with 2 lockups now, and clearly that process of heating the tyres and the brakes hasn't quite worked so well, although Aguilera down to the outside line in the 77 and also popping through the Monza garage, the similarly liveried car, as one of the JS2Rs has already lost its bonnet, the engine cover lying on the ground, Graham.
It was indeed, so a job there for the team, the Spares, the Marshals. Well, that is it, that's had an impact. That's not just a lost bonnet, that has come as a result of contact for the number 69 car. That's the M Racing car of Gianfranco Barbara.
Yeah, Barbara slipping back then in M Racing's machine. They were neck and neck, he and Cindy Goudet on the 3rd row, as now looking at the inside, Ian Aguilera on James Winslow, but Winslow now the second of the Virage cars trying to do both of them. Superb move at Bose to muscle back ahead into second place and leave the two Dayglow yellow cars door mirror to door mirror. Also looking to get back involved is Romain Favre in the Inter-Europol competition car, as the two from Monza Garage and RLR are leaning on one another. And Romain Favre, if he plays his cards right, might be able to pick off both of these, just as Geronimo Berrio did at the Double Droit. Here now down the inside will go the number 7 car, and from 5th up to 3rd position in one move.
Cracking stuff for these opening laps of the Ligier European Series this morning, Johnny. And I think one of the better opening laps we've had in the series history. It's been side by side between 2, 3, and at times even 4 cars. And here we go again with 3 to turn 1.
Eco Segre, we've not mentioned his name a great deal so far, but he's about to join the party as well. Segre later on the brakes than Romain Favre to bag 5th place, but it might only be for a few corners. That seems to be the flavour of this race so far. Clearly they've all had their breakfasts nice and early this morning and are eager for some race action. Part 1 of Heat 2 of the Ligier European Series, as Eco Segre's all over the curb, but then loses grip as he leaves Virage L'Hôtel on the 2nd lap. They're heading now through the right-hander at Saint-Baume and onto the Mistral straight for the 2nd time. And this might provide an opportunity for the race to settle down slightly. 2 cars to the pit lane from JS2R. We've covered Gianfranco Barbara with his incident on the opening lap, but also Antoine Lepescu, who is the joint championship leader after a 1st and a 3rd place finish in Barcelona, already though parked in the pits.
Yeah, it was a left rear puncture for that car, so is that cause and effect with what happened with the number 69 car, also by the way back to the pits for Gianfranco Barbara, sorry. So still attention going on with the number 50 car, I can tell you, but the action is all about what's going on track, Johnny.
And the 2 Virage cars are now nose to tail, with Ian Aguilera squirming his way out of the Double Droit de Bose to try and hang on to the coattails of Geronimo Berrio and, more crucially, championship leader Theo Mikuris. Mikuris didn't have it all his own way in the opening race at Barcelona, only won it by half a second. It was a much more dominant win. He and Hayden Chance in the 2nd race, is now Romain Favre looking to force a mistake from James Winslow into the final corner at Virage du Pont. That's turn 14, and back across the grid hatchings and the strike to tick off lap 2, which is led by Theo Mikuris from his teammate Geronimo Berrio. Ian Aguilera, though, within touching distance, and Eco Segre has scythed his way back up the order. So Segre, at the start of the previous lap, was 6th. He's now back up to 4th place for ANS Motorsport, the Frenchman.
Cracking stuff, and it's this group of 3, 4 cars, Johnny, that are kind of leapfrogging each other, 3rd through to about 7th. in the early stage of this race. We'll tell you that both of those cars that were on pit lane, the JS2Rs, have dropped back off the lead lap. We have got the number 50 car back out on track, but I think the damage to the number 69 car is probably going to mean it's an early bath.
Yeah, it looked to be significant, and these cars are built very toughly indeed, so it's a surprise that the bonnet had detached on its own, and clearly then when we caught sight of the car, there had been a substantial hit on the front. Not had a chance to revisit that moment as Clement Moreno goes through the little kink onto the Mistral, the ligne droite du Mistral, this 1.8 kilometre straight, ended by senior corner and ended by an overtake for the race lead from Geronimo Berrio, and he will now be in front of Theo Mikuris as long as he can slow the car at Beausset sufficiently, the double right-hander. And they tend to V that corner off, so go very deep into the first sector, and almost drifting his way out of the second element of Beausset was Berrio, so Mikuris sticking with him. But although these cars are similarly liveried, they run out of the same stable, Team Virage of Poland, but there's no love lost between them.
Yeah, I don't know what was in the breakfast buffet this morning, but I'd like a pint of it, please, because it really is action all the way here. It certainly wasn't cake.
You wouldn't have thought so. No, that's going to just slow them down. So the high energy, slow release energy, perhaps, I don't know. But whatever they've taken on board early on Saturday morning, it is working and providing superb entertainment. Only 6 minutes in to a 60-minute race. There'll be a pit stop from 27 minutes in. That's when the pit lane officially opens, and it stays open for 7 minutes. So you have to have your pit stop done with 26 minutes remaining in the race and to hit the regulated driver time. And it's stipulated in the rules that these drivers have to start race 1. Their co-drivers, if they have co-drivers, will have to start race 2.
Yeah, top 6 cars still separated by just 5 seconds here, but it does look at the moment as if this is all about these leading 2 cars still not being chased by Ian Aguilera, but it's not been out of this fight. Nico Segre, pretty close contention in the NS car. That's your top 4 before we get to Romain Favre, who's been right in the thick of that fight, and James Winslow, who's pogoed up and down between 3rd and down to where he is at the moment in 6th place throughout this race so far.
Caught a brief glimpse there of Paul Lancher, who is leading the JS2 R division. Paul's first venture into Ligier European Series. We didn't see him at Barcelona for the opening 2 races. But Lancher to the front, and it's a Pegasus Racing 1-2 then in JS2 R. Heading the Clement Moreno, the gnashing teeth of the Frenchman in car number 31.
Yep, spotted Pegasus Racing last weekend. We're racing with the ACO Rules pack, with Imola and the WEC, with their 2 ex-Ligier European racers now contesting with the team in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. But this is part of the Pegasus Racing ladder. Julien Schell, the team owner, team principal, in close contention with Paul Lancher. But Lancher at the moment leading the GT class, if you like, the 18 for the 29. Still though, Johnny, it's still Team Virage 1-2 in JS P4, and they're closer than ever again.
Yeah, and we get to see now what Geronimo Berrio is really made of, because no doubt about it, Theo Mikuris and Hayden Chance came away from Barcelona as the dominant force, but the 17-year-old from Bogota, Colombia, will have been eager to try and reverse those fortunes as early in the season as possible to try and claw some of those points back. They started level pegging then at 9 o'clock this morning. Romain Favre was so close to nipping ahead of both of those Team Virage cars. There was a big lock-up then from Favre, which allowed the Ian Aguilera car through. Yeah, the front left taking a right pounding in the Inter-Europol competition car. Straight lining Verrerie, the S-Bend, was the 71 of James Winslow. And then to the high side, Mexican driver Ian Aguilera, who himself had a big lock-up into Virage de l'Hôtel.
That's action still continued. Plenty of off-track action as part of it. In the background of that earlier shot was the incident that caused this damage. And did see that car being spun around. I think he impacted the side rear of the number 50 car. We didn't see that. It's a new fastest lap of the race, by the way, and it isn't that chasing second place number 1 car not letting Geronimo Berrio get away with this in any way, shape or form. But this pair are getting away now from Ian Aguilera.
as we enjoy these two that are absolutely nose to tail, and Theo Mercouris, a brave move to the left-hand section of Bundor corner, and now heading through the right-hand swoop of Garlaban, and at the final two corners that are pretty tough to get right when you're on your own, but when you're following somebody else, Virage du Lac, Virage du Pont, there is more than one racing line. So often we've seen cars charge up the inside of turn 14 at the last possible moment. And maybe Theo Mercouris has watched a few videos of drivers doing that in ACO rules racing through the years. He might be saving one up his sleeve for a little bit later on, but you don't want to show your cards too early. Confirmation, by the way, that it is the 19 runners now, in fact down to 18 because of potentially retirement for the M Racing Gianfranco Barbara, but we didn't see a start at all for Jolt Racing and Ipswich racer Thomas Jack Lee. It's a real shame, because at the moment Thomas Jack unsure as to whether he can do any more races beyond Le Castellet. But that's they thought they were chasing a gearbox problem, but it's turned out not to be the case.
Trouble for another.
Sita, yeah.
Yeah, it is Sita van Meer. Raced last time out in a driver duo with Jacques Nicolet, riding this time out by herself aboard the number 86 car, but that car has pulled over on the Mistral, or just to, I think, driver's right at the Mistral.
Why was Dylan Young taking to the escape road in the smart driving car at turn 3 and 4, I wonder? Maybe just outbraked himself. Here comes Theo Mercouris with a tremendous run. Now, he will have passed some yellow flags, but the overtake began, I reckon, in the greens. So we'll assume that this is a legal move. It certainly is now at senior corner, but he was level pegging, not able to go right around the outside of Berriot, who kept the car in the middle of the road, although again he's backing his teammate up a little bit. There might have even been a tag there, nose to tail, the briefest of glances. There certainly was.
There's damage to the rear of the 66 car.
And it's going to slow dramatically, almost to the point of stopping, is it? No, they're still working their way out of that corner.
Oh, this is big trouble for the 66 car. That's disaster.
It didn't look to be that big a hit, so I'd be surprised. I thought everyone was slowing down, and that wasn't an optical illusion. So where was the contact?
That was already
happened at that point. Well, Theo was having a nibble into Bose, and possibly senior corner as well, but that presumably is more from contact than a failed tyre. But as I say, I'm surprised it has made that much of an impact to the rear of the car, and he pits straight away. So Jeronimo Berriot all of a sudden juggling with a race win, and that has gone south very quickly indeed.
And the irony, of course, is it was the team car that made the impact.
Yeah.
Safety car on course. That will be for the recovery of the number 86 car.
Still fascinated to know precisely where that contact was made. They passed the stranded car of Sita van Meer at about 2/3 of the way down the Mistral straight, and this is Dylan Young's moment as he outbraked himself into Virage de l'Hôtel. As I say, I mentioned that taking to the escape road, you have to go to the left-hand side of those 4 cones and rejoin in a safe and sensible manner just beyond turn 5.
So all sorts of dramas, on-track dramas, off-track dramas. To complete the story for Thomas Jack Lee, by the way, team are working on that car and hope to see whether or not we can get the number 26 car out. This looks to be where the impact was caused. Yes, it was pulled to the outside to try to take the position and just swept the rear bodywork to foul the left rear tyre, Johnny.
And that's the V-shape nose of the Ligier. So, in fact, the front left was clearing it initially, but as Theo moved to the left, that peak on the front of his car just scraping the very rear section of the wheel arch, and it has bent and buckled the bodywork right across the tyre. The tyre was still inflated, I think, as they took it off, but had he continued to run, that almost certainly would not have remained the story, and the tyre would have started to be eaten away. That tyre smoke, not healthy at all. I'm just surprised it manifested itself quite as quickly as it did, but when you've got bodywork fouling tyre and they're still going a fair old lick, that can so easily happen. And then everybody slowed down, and I struggle to work out why, but it's because the safety car was out in the unrelated incident when Sita van Meert's car seemingly just stopped on its own. So Le Doussard entering 3 cars this weekend. They still have 2 running. Antoine Lupescu with that early pit stop. Geronimo Berrio is back in the race, by the way, but has slipped all the way back to 16th position.
But is still on the lead lap and will rejoin the back of this queue.
And so behind Jacques Nicolet, who just appears right at the tail. So Berrio will be the next car into sight behind the yellow Le JS2 R. Antoine Lepesque not on the lead lap, so he's in this batch between the safety car and the final car on that lead lap, who is now Colombian racer Berrio.
Pretty certain we do not have a pass-by in the Ligier European Series, so this will be the order that restarts the race when it's deemed by race control it's appropriate to do so. Just taking a look at just exactly where the 66 car will be on the back of this train, I think by the end of this lap, Johnny, but we'll be going around for at least one more lap behind the safety car.
Yeah, Sita Van Mert's machine still being pushed to a safe location. There's nothing to stop Sita, I suppose, starting that car back up again if it will obey and rejoining, but the marshal's job is to get her to a safe location so that everybody else can start to race again. So it's been a brilliant start in terms of racing, but also a fair war of attrition too, because they have been dropping here, there and everywhere. One car permanently out, we think, the number 69 M Racing Gianfranco Barbara car. Sita Van Mert will join that car in potentially the retirement area, but otherwise everyone that's had early difficulties back in the race, like the number 50 Le JS2 R, which leads the championship. In fact, there are 3 drivers that have 40 points after the first heat of the season. They are Lepesque, as mentioned, Noé de Cunha, who is the teammate to Antoine, and then Lewis Stern, who took a race victory in Barcelona in his car. Lewis races on his own, and he also has 40 points from 2 races in Spain.
So one more lap behind the safety car. The troublesome Ligier that brought out this intervention, now in a place of safety.
All cars to close the gaps, all cars to close the gaps. No more than 5 car lengths between the car in front of you.
So trying to get the field in order. If we stick with this shot long enough, we should see that 66 car back on the rear of this train now. Should be able to make quick work of the JS2Rs, Johnny.
Yes.
But it is a matter of, is there time to get back into contention for Geronimo Berrio? That brush with his teammate.
There's a slightly larger gap between the 2 Pegasus racing cars than is ideal in JS2R. So that gap needing to be closed a touch. Julien Schell running in 2nd position behind Paul Lancher, who is actually Lewis Stern's teammate this weekend. I mentioned Lewis was racing on his own in Barcelona. Well, he has a teammate in car number 18 here in Le Castellet. They run in the AM division because they're both bronze-rated drivers, but Lewis Stern took a victory and beat silver racing drivers last time out.
Lights are off on the safety car, Johnny. It will be in this lap, and we can go back to green flag running with still over 40 minutes to go in what's been a, well, how can we, well-seasoned first 20 minutes.
Certainly has, and kept us very busy indeed here in the booth, and I sense this is about to continue, certainly to the first opportunity to pit, which is 27 minutes in. We've had 18 minutes, so we're less than 10 minutes away from that. Still the tyres being warmed gently by Theo Mercouris, and now he chooses to hit the loud pedal partway around Gare Le Ban, the long right-hander at turn 12, into the braking area for Virage du Lac, and no overtaking before they've crossed the line. Ico Segre has stealthily been working his way up, just picking them off, and obviously there have been dramas as well in the case of Berrio, but that gave Ico Segre another position, and the ANS Motorsport car number 6 now running 2nd, right behind Theo Mercouris. 3rd place for Ian Aguilera with the day-glow yellow, white and blue of RLRM Sport, and then it's the half-green, half-yellow colours of Inter-Europol Competition and Romain Favre, who started with meaningful intent. Favre will be in that car for the whole race. I thought in 5th position then. The Monza Garage car of James Winslow was about to have a big moment. It did seem to be rather unstable under braking, but he's still there and in 5th place. We have definitely a train of 5 cars, maybe 6 if Dylan Young can get involved as well.
Certainly trying, isn't he? I'll keep an eye on the progress of the number 66 car. We've got car 71 with a 5-second addition to its pit stop. That is James Winslow for, I think that is a safety car infringement. Start infringement for James Winslow. Here comes the 66 car. It's delayed ex-race leader in the hands of Geronimo Berrio, making his way up through the JS2 Rs. But as you said very early in the broadcast, Johnny, proof positive there that there's not a lot in terms of top speed between the two breeds of Ligier. And that's not where it's going to make the best progress. It's going to be under braking and through the turns. And that's what's happening at the moment with these top 5 cars.
Yeah, so the prototype derived cars should be an awful lot better than through the twisty sections because they have far greater downforce. They also weigh a lot less, 900 odd kilos rather than just north of 1,000 for the JS2 Rs.
It's a second 5-second penalty for the next pit stop for the 71 for not obeying we're expecting the race director's instructions at turn 1. So it'll be a further 10 seconds added to the Monza Garage pit stop when we get around to that point in the race. So that's pretty much a disaster for them, particularly because the field's been backed up with this safety car, Johnny.
Yeah, so James Winslow running in 5th place as now Ico Segre and Ian Aguilera are side by side at the S of Verrerie, and Aguilera is through and into 2nd place now down this short straight. James Winslow might have copped a penalty, but it doesn't stop him disrupting this battle and trying to overtake Romain Favre and Ico Segre in one go.
Oh, there's been a little bit of contact just off the apex there between Ico Segre and James Winslow. Both will rejoin. The cone goes awry after impact from Romain Favre. I think everybody got through there relatively unscathed.
Segre had to totally take to the diversionary route though and go the correct side of the cones, I assume, but he was sort of put there by James Winslow, who had outbraked himself. He was trying, in fairness, a legitimate overtake, managed to pick off Favre, but then tried it on Segre as well and asked a little bit too much of his brakes, and he will have to pit in the not too distant future as well to take that penalty. Side
by side between the 77 and the 6, it goes the way of the number 6. Ico Segre is ahead of Ian Aguilera in this battle for 2nd place that has been in the hands of 4 different cars so far. There's a further penalty, by the way, further 5 seconds to be added to the number 60 car. That's the Iron Lynx by LR Motorsports JS2 R, currently in the hands of Gregorio Bertocco, and he's in 3rd place. That is for another start infringement, and now a 10-second penalty goes to the leading car. Theo Mercuris, 10 seconds added to his pit stop for causing that collision.
Yeah, and penalising his teammate car of Geronimo Berrio, so it was just that merest of rubs to the rear left wheel arch of the number 66 car, but 10 extra seconds added to the only pit stop they will hope in car 1 for causing that crash.
What that means at this point in the race then, Johnny, is that the 2nd place battle is effectively the battle for the lead, because with a 10-second penalty for Theo Mercuris, that would put him very ironically just ahead of the recovering Geronimo Berrio, who's now up in 9th place and under 13 seconds back from the leader. Yeah,
I actually think that's possibly not an accident, because they think, well, Berrio's been penalised to come in and have to fix that bodywork, so read the regulations and try and put Theo Mercuris on a level playing field with that. I mean, yes, there's been the 66 car benefiting from the safety car and buying some time back as a result, but you can also take James Winslow out of that leading gaggle as well. He's there still at the moment. In fact, he's just ahead of Romain Favre, but he'll have to have an extra 5 seconds added to his time in number 71. Pretty close at the moment for 2nd and 3rd in JS2R between Julien Schell and Gregorio Bertocco in the Iron Lynx by LR Motorsport car, as now Ico Segre and Ian Aguilera are side by side. Aguilera will have the ideal line into senior corner, and this, as Graham has said, there's contact at senior, and sideways will go the 77 car at very, very high speed. That's the fastest corner around this circuit, one of the fastest corners in Europe, in fact, and actually getting away with that that reasonably well. I feared that Ian Aguilera might be heading for the tyres at great speed, but Segre and Aguilera, a glancing blow, and it's ended up with actually similar damage on Aguilera's car to the Berriot incident earlier on in the piece. Segre, did he turn in too early, or did Aguilera go a little too deep into the corner? That's thankfully not one for us to decide. But it's a huge high-speed off for Ian Aguilera.
Gutsy stuff from both of them in fighting for that position.
Yeah.
And it's the margins are so tiny. So Aguilera dropping back down the order, has rejoined, and has rejoined in 7th place, just ahead of, guess who? Geronimo Berriot.
Nobody wants to win this race right now, it seems. So Ico Segre is in 2nd place position, which could very easily become the lead. Favre up the curb on the inside of the second element of Verrerie, and in turn James Winslow then exiting that corner and whacking the curb a couple of times. Winslow trying to cut off the approach line for Favre, but he can't do it in time into Virage de l'Hôtel. But again, a bumpy old ride for the Frenchman in car number 7, as we remind ourselves about what's going on in JS2 R. Cindy Goudet in the purple machine right behind. Is that Cindy? Just checking the number.
No, it's not.
No,
that
it's not. Okay. Have they switched to M Racing liveries? Well, it can't be, because Barbara's out of the race. So, but it, as you say, can't be Goudet, because she should be battling with Clement Moreno. We'll check on that. There's more debris now in the middle of the track as well. That as a result of the contact at senior corner. It's the 50 machine of Antoine Lepesque, and it is Cindy Goudet, but Lepesque's off the lead lap. That's what's confusing us.
Yes, absolutely.
So I was right with Cindy's instantly recognisable, I thought, livery. And Goudet was on the cusp of potentially a race win at Barcelona last time out. She's a quick driver.
Indeed. Theo Mercouris, by the way, has got his foot down here. He's trying to make good on the 10 seconds of penalties he will be serving at this pit stop, or rather the number 1 car will be serving this pit stop. He's almost halfway there. 4.6 seconds clear now of Ico Segre. Still watching further back, and is pulling away now from Geronimo Berriot, who is back up to 8th place, chasing Ian Aguilera. That's a real-world battle, nose to tail between the two, as those two cars that both been involved in almost identical collisions are trying to make their way back up the order.
On we go. I wonder which twist and turn we're going to witness next. We're not very far. In fact, we are right on the nose now of the pit lane opening, 27 minutes into the race. Still with the rear bodywork flapping on the number 77 car, Ian Aguilera. He's trying to move around the delayed Geronimo Berriot. So Berriot may take a glance in his mirrors and realise that trim is flapping and think, I know all about that, Ian. I've been suffering from that much earlier on in the race. The team at Virage have done a good job in bending that back out again, as the 3rd Team Virage car will come into pit road. This is the number 32 car for Paschalis Stavrakidis, the Qatari driver, and then Lucas Medina joining him from Colombia. So 3 Virage JS P4s in this weekend's heat. Meanwhile, the number 29 car, which is in 2nd position, Julien Schell, and right behind is Gregorio Bertocco on the ragged edge of adhesion there for Iron Links by LR.
I can tell you, by the way, that Berriot has passed Ian Aguilera on track. But, that battle has cost them time against the leading group. Time they cannot really afford to lose. We're under 2 minutes from the halfway point. And pit stop window is open, and plenty of cars taking advantage of it, Johnny.
Yeah, some couldn't, of course, because they were crossing the line just as the 27 minutes was ticking over. But anybody else a little further back in the race, including Jacques Nicolet, Paschalis Stavrakidis as mentioned, he's in for Team Virage. Antoine Lepesque, 2nd visit to pit road. The first one was unplanned. So all 3 cars pitting. The other cars that are no longer in the race displayed to the base of our timing screen, of course, and sadly for Jolt Racing, a non-start for race 1, but they are continuing to work on the number 26 car to hope that it can get into the race into the second race later this afternoon.
Fuel load coming down, pace going up, new fastest lap of the race for the race leader, Mercuris, as Eco Segre heads for pit lane, and then Romain Favre comes through to take second place and claim the fastest lap of the race as he does so, a 1:59.197.
Here's Eco Segre. I wonder where he's going to end up after all this shakes out, because Eco, just about the only car who's not been potentially done for a penalty, although it's still being looked at, the incident at Senior Corner not so long ago.
Also on pit lane from the JS P4's Logan Hanna. We've not said much about the Nielsen Racing efforts, but their brand new car in all over carbon at the moment. The number 4 car down in 9th place, as everybody down to 7th stays out. 8th all the way down are either in the pits or on their way back out, Johnny.
So just keeping an eye on whether we have had any decisions concerning the incident at Senior Corner. No, that's still being looked at. And I suppose the issue is that now that Eco Segre is in and Ian Aguilera can't be, Ian Aguilera is also in as well, you won't be able to add time to a pit stop because the car should only be making 1 stop. So if there is a penalty to be served for either, that will have to be done separately and will take them out of a potentially very good result.
Geronimo Berrio has had a bit of a moment. He's dropped a fair chunk of time on that last lap, drops to 23 seconds off the leader after a 2:06 in a field that pace looks like a 1:59. So it looks to me like that recovery drive from Geronimo Berrio has come with some drama.
Here's the race leader for the time being, Theo Mercuris. Now this will be a longish stop anyway because he races with a fellow Silver driver, Hayden Chance. So they take the longest stops if you're solo Silver or a double Silver, and then there's an extra 10 seconds to be added to the time.
Yeah.
So this could be very costly indeed. James Winslow remaining out, so not yet making a pit stop, but still has time to do that. He's got an extra 5 seconds though to be added to his pit stop.
He's also an extra 10 because he's got 2 5-second.
2 5 seconds, okay. Yeah.
But Berrio stays out, so the gap between Berrio and James Winslow, 15 seconds. This is all going to play back out in about the next 5 minutes or so. Driver changes underway.
So Dylan Young getting out. Dylan is one of those that did take the correct route at the escape road at turn 3. He'll be handing over to Alin Fulga, Romanian driver for the Romanian squad, Smart Driving. But James Winslow being pinged for a start infringement and then also not respecting the instructions at turn 1, interestingly. So that wasn't a turn 3 thing. It was, did he go right across the curb and didn't take to an escape road at turn 1?
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. And again, that was on the first lap, I think. So he's actually, he ended up with 2 penalties, virtually back to back, separated by only a few seconds.
27.5 minutes to go, with majority of the field on the way out from the pit stop. Still to see on pit lane, Johnny, the top 3 cars in the overall running order, which includes the lead car in JS2 R, the Pegasus Racing number 18 car, Paul Lancher. James Winslow, Geronimo Berrio. Berrio, of course, has been on pit lane, but that was for repairs, not for the pit stop that he needed to take. In comes Winslow now, as out comes the number 1 car, brought in by Theo Mercuris.
Yeah, so Hayden Chance taking that car over and about to rejoin. Clement Moreno's car is still being worked on. There won't be a driver change there. Moreno staying into the finish. So they're just waiting for the seconds to tick by. Moreno is a bronze driver, so it'll be one of the quicker stops for car 31. Plenty of traffic rejoining now from pit road. It's a relatively awkward pit lane exit road as well, because it's right on the racing line with cars well over to the right to take the ideal route into Verrerie.
This is our lead battle, because into the lead after these pit stops wind out will be the number 7 Europol competition car, Romain Favre. Eco Segre, as we can see, almost on the rear wing of the number 7 car. So it's Inter Europol versus ANS Motorsport. Then Yuki Tanaka, I think, is going to come through into 3rd place for Pegasus Racing, the number 16 car, before we get Hayden Chance after that pit stop penalty was served, Johnny.
Now, did they, at the number 3 crew, get the message in time, smart driving, to add that extra 5 seconds to the pit stop for gaining an advantage?
Well, they've served 2 minutes and 24 seconds on pit road.
2 minutes and 24. I think that's longer than a normal bronze pit stop time. So they may well have said, oh, we've been given a penalty. We're in the middle of the pit stop right now. Let's get this done and out of the way so that we don't have to come in separately and really delay.
It is exactly the same pit stop time as the current, the new race leader. So did they?
New race leader being Romain Favre,
yeah.
And Romain Favre is a silver. And the number 3
so that
car.
Would be right. That would be right.
Let me just check. Silver. No, we're talking about the number 3 car, aren't we? No, smart driving. Beg your pardon, I was reading the wrong line. So Alan Fulger and Dylan Young are both silvers. So they've done a pit stop equivalent to a standard silver stop. They haven't added the time.
Oh dear.
Well, they got the message, or at least the message appeared on the screen at 29 minutes past the hour. And that was probably a bit too late for them.
Oh, by the way, I think James Winslow has come out of the number 71 car.
Right with them.
Right with them. There you go.
Yeah.
It's just come out 3rd place. It's in this battle with Chunting Zhou.
So Favre leads in the number 7. Then Chuting Chow in the number 71. But Monza Garage has slipped behind Eco Segre now, but is on the lead lap. So it's a 3rd position, isn't it, for the 71. Now in behind car 6. Then the number 4 car for Nielsen Racing and Ben Casely, who's just taken over from Logan Hanna. And the number 1 car is being driven by Hayden Chance, the driver from Worcester. And he is in 6th place, just ahead of the sister Team Virage car of Pedro Moreno, number 66. So they're all still there or thereabouts. There's just a little bit of doubt as to whether all the penalties that have been dished out have all been served. But Romain Favre, I think in the clear, one of the few cars that hasn't yet been given a penalty, car 7, and he'll be hoping that that continues all the way to the checkered flag.
It's a whole new look, isn't it, to the top 3 with Romain Favre, Eco Segre and Chu Chunting, as I should correctly be calling his name. They've got about 5 seconds, Johnny, ahead of another group, headed by Yuki Tanaka in the 16 Pegasus Racing car, with Ben Casely from Nielsen Racing right with him, and Hayden Chance right there as well. That's this group. The all-black car is the Nielsen Racing car. Then the Pegasus Racing in the traditional sky blue with the white rear cowling, and then the first of the Team Virage cars.
Eco Segre in places looking a little faster than Romain Favre. So Segre to the high line now of the Verrery S-Bend. They're going to arrive together. How late does Segre want to brake? If he can stay on that right-hand side, he'll have the inside line for the second bit of Verrery, but he couldn't quite make it work and had to get on the brakes, or at least off the throttle, to allow Romain Favre to the more natural racing line. There was contact certainly being risked there, but I think just about avoided. But Eco Segre, the Frenchman for ANS Motorsport, is a touch faster than Inter Europol Competition's pilot. He needs to try and work out where the best place to make this overtake is.
Yeah, this race is well aligned, isn't it? Both for the win and for the places. Romain Favre retains the lead from Eco Segre, but it is tense. The gap. They're pulling away from Chu Chunting, who is beginning to fall back towards that second group. Ben Casey now at the front of that. We saw that a little while ago. He's got a little bit of an edge down Yuki Tanaka, who's firmly in the clutches of Hayden Chance. In JS2R, 10th place overall at the moment for Pegasus Racing's number 18 car, hands of Louis Stern. And it's ANS Motorsport's 31 in the hands of Clement Moreno. Now in 2nd place, David Cossonel, and the second of the Pegasus Racing cars, the 29 car, is 3rd, but behind a lapped 32 Team Virage JS P4.
again, a slight squirm from Romain Favre. Couldn't get the turn-in required at Bandor, so he's a little slower coming out onto Garlabat than the chasing Eco Segre ANS Motorsport machine. Romain Favre, for the time being, is able to keep the pace. These are two silver-rated drivers, so there won't be a lot between them. And that has proved to be the case in the sessions so far this weekend. But Eco might be slightly better on the brakes into Verrery, the first corner. Zhou Chunting in Monza Garages, number 71, that he's just taken over from James Winslow, rejoining. They're both silvers as well, but rejoining in third position. Can't quite bridge that gap, though, to the top two.
I'm seeing that, I don't think we saw it, but there was apparently contact between these two. No investigation deemed to be necessary for that.
All right. So that's still, well, was being investigated, now has been done and dusted, so we can discount that as Cindy Goudet arrives at senior corner, chasing down Jacques Nicolet's Le Douce Arbre car, and Goudet to the inside line into Beausset will be able to pick off Nicolet relatively comfortably. Nicolet realising he probably shouldn't be fighting Cindy Goudet there, because the Goudet slightly faster in this phase of the race, and also just allowing the steering to wash out a touch was the driver number 16, Yuki Tanaka, as this was a few moments ago.
This was the contact I think we were talking about. It was a fair defence from the race leader. Race control deciding no investigation necessary there. That was the incident we were talking about. Did, however, see a change there, didn't we? That was Hayden Chance going ahead of Yuki Tanaka. That's for 5th place overall. Hayden Chance 11 seconds off the lead. Still well alight, this lead battle between Romain Favre and Eco Segre. They are dropping Zhou Chunting. Ben Kaisley not really making inroads into 3rd place at the moment in the Nielsen Racing car. He's 4th, trying to chase down the 71 Monza Garage car. This is our race leader in JS2R. We're not seeing much of the Louis Stern number 18 car.
We haven't, but he's going about his business just as he did in Barcelona in the opening heat with a win.
But he is being caught, and caught quickly, by Clement Moreno. That is going to that's going to be a battle at least, Johnny, and I think that is going to change.
Well, the scope for that to happen, because there's still 18.5 minutes to go. He managed to finish 1st and 3rd in JS2R, did Louis Stern. He was driving on his own on that occasion, but has teammate Paul Lancher now for company.
This is Pedro Moreno in the 2nd of the Virage cars, having a crack at Yuki Tanaka into turn 1. Does that neat and tidily. Tanaka gets a little bit crossed up as he tries to tuck back in.
So that's a fight for 6th position that changes, and will put Moreno ahead of Japanese racer Tanaka, the only AM entry in JS P4. And a moment or two ago, the number 3 car, now being driven by Alain Fulger, scrapping away, coming out of Virage Dupont, almost 3 abreast. I think briefly it was on the main straight, as the 32 car, which is recovering with new driver. And as an addition to the entry list here, D'Amato now is in the number 32.
Right, this is the lead battle in JS2R, as through came the delayed number 32 car. That's a previous battle, by the way. That was Ian Aguilera making his way back up and into 7th place ahead of Alain Fulger. And now the one in the hands of Hayden Chance, trying to get onto terms and by Ben Kaisley. Kaisley defending well there. This is the battle for 4th, but Hayden Chance will want to be by the Nielsen Racing car and off in pursuit of Zhou Chunting, who is a further 8 seconds ahead of this pair. Still tense between the leading pair, and the same in JS2R. Louis Stern now trying to fight off Clement Moreno in the GT class. Romain Favre doing the same with Eco Segre, and we are down to under 17 minutes to go, Johnny.
Nothing between Ben Kaisley and Hayden Chance now. Ben from the northeast of England, and he racing then someone from the southwest. Opposite corners of the UK, doing battle on track, as now to the high side of one of the Pegasus racing cars. That's Clement Moreno for the race lead in JS2R. So Louis Stern, you mentioned, was being caught by Moreno, And now we'll have to stick the elbows out for a considerable length of time. We've got over 15 minutes of this race to go, and Clement Moreno, he can probably hear the teeth chattering in the background, Lewis Stern, as Moreno tries a move up the inside of Virage du Lac, but the door is firmly shut in his face.
Referring to the infamous Jaws script, he's probably thinking we're going to need a bigger car. Big twitch though there for the chasing Ligier. So he just gives a little bit of respite to the race leader in JS2R. We'll say, by the way, car 71 we said we thought might be under investigation for that pit stop penalty not being served correctly. They are also under investigation, the 4th place car in JS2R, for the same offence. That's the Iron Links by LR Motorsport. Side by side now, Ben Casely looking to try to defend from Hayden Chance as they come tearing into Seat Corner. Can't do that and is now under pressure from the second of the Virage cars. Sweeping through into 4th place, Hayden Chance. 9 seconds is his gap between 4th place and a potential podium, with Chuton taking ahead.
Moreno trying a very different line into Virage du Camp, but that didn't quite work, and all of a sudden Lewis Stern has a slight more lead by about a car length or two. Eco Segre a little further back this time from Romain Favre, so was that an indication of an error from Segre?
Or was that a bit of debris falling off that car, or was it maybe it's been, well, it can't be gravel, there's no gravel trappage in that area of the track. Would say, by the way, that didn't mention about this potential battle for 3rd place, but it is the number 71 team, one of 2 teams, team managers asked to go to race control. I think they've got a penalty coming, and I think Virage, that was contact to the rear of Ben Casey's car by Pedro Moreno, and that might well attract the attention of race control.
So Hayden Chance had already got through, but yeah, Pedro Moreno having the nibble, and then a moment for Tanaka, which I think was on his own.
I think it was.
I'm just looking away from the screen, caught the back end of that. Now, JS2R, it's yet to be decided between now and the checkered flag. That's 14 minutes of this battle to enjoy, and Clement Moreno just sitting in the wheel tracks of the Pegasus racing car, working out where he's faster. He'll do the classic run into Virage du Pont. Now, the problem is he's very tight into that corner, so won't be able to get the power down as equally as Pegasus Racing's machine. And Lewis Stern will think, well, I'll try and have you back here on the main straight, but he's just a bit too far back, particularly considering the first bit of Verrerie is a left-hander. Yeah,
neatly done that, wasn't it? He'd sort of been looking for where that opportunity might come. You'd call that perfectly, Johnny, and found a neat and tidy, risk-free way, relatively risk-free way of doing that. The 1 and the 66 back together again as they were at the start of this race. You can see the damage to the rear of one of those cars. It was caused by contact from the car ahead, where both cars were in the hands of their co-drivers. But this now is a battle, I think, in real terms, Johnny, for what will be a podium position.
And they're rather dog-eared, some of these cars as well. Certainly the 66 carrying that damage, and then Pedro Moreno had the contact on the nose of his car into the rear of Ben Casely, spinning the northeast driver from the UK. Now Pedro Moreno Clement Moreno in clear air for once. He's got about a 12-second buffer now ahead of him to the tail enders in the JS P4. And as mentioned, Umberto D'Amato, a very late addition to the Team Virage setup in car number 32. There was a late change there to take Lucas Medina out of the initial entry list. As bumping and boring his way into turns 3, 4 and 5. Romain Favre, 2.5 seconds now the lead over Eco Segre. So Favre weathering the storm as Segre was trying every trick in the book to get through. And his reward on lap 22 is a bit more of a cushion over the second place car. 12
minutes to go. Romain Favre 2.5 seconds clear of Eco Segre. Chuton Ting is 6 seconds back. This pair is catching the 3rd place car, and potentially with woes of the penalty sorts coming. This is a replay of that overtaking manoeuvre for the lead in JS2R. It was brilliantly done, neat and tidily done, and then it was a matter of getting that power down at the first possible millisecond for our new race leader in JS2R Clement Moreno did it to perfection and managed to get to turn one with clear air between him and Louis Stern. Side by side, almost into scene. That's not gone well a couple of times this morning so far, Johnny.
No, and Hayden Chance had the inside line, but he had to be wary of the mirror to his left-hand side and where the 66 car was going to put himself. Pedro Moreno almost thinking of a move up the inside. In fact, he did do through the second bit of Beausset, so they're still side by side now, reaching the left-hander at Bandor. Garlaban next, which Hayden Chance doesn't get the ideal exit onto because he was all over the curb, and now nibbling at his heels is Pedro Moreno to the right-hand side, and this is a Clement Moreno type move. Pedro Moreno very, very wide indeed, but that delivers him into the apex of Virage du Pont, and the two Virage cars will switch positions.
All of a sudden up into fourth, Pedro Moreno. Right, an absolutely carbon copy of the move made about a lap ago by namesake Clement Moreno, that time for the lead. Traffic coming now for this pair of JS P4s.
There is no relation, we assume, by the way, because Pedro's from Colombia and Clement a Frenchman. But fairly common surname in certain parts of the world, I suppose, and to be a Moreno in this race, then you are a very quick driver, because we have one leading their class in the form of Clement in JS2 Rs, and Pedro Moreno is working his way up the order. Could potentially have won this were it not for the contact to the rear, running in fourth position and about 8 seconds now to make up on Cho Chun-Ting.
Well, we'll see exactly what is going to come the way of the Monza garage car. At the moment, in the pound seats, it is Romain Favre for Inter-European competition. That would be quite the result for them. Race winners in the European Le Mans Series in LMP3, race winners at Le Mans and LMP2, and this would be the first JS P4 win for Inter-European competition.
There is Eco Segre in the white, red and black colours. Cindy Goudet now falling off the lead lap in comparison to JS P4s, but she's still in contention in JS2R, circulating in fourth place.
Hayden Chance has not given this position up by any means. He's just put in the fastest middle sector of the race so far, and he's going side by side again with his teammate as they come up to lap a couple of the JS2Rs. This ain't done.
Well, that's the benefit of a teammate right in front of you. It's providing you the draft down the long straight. Doesn't work so well in these aero-dependent cars in the curves, but when you're on the Mistral, that's what you'd really like, is a running mate. So Pedro Moreno punching the hole in the air, and he'll get the same effect down this long start-finish straight as well in the sandwich between two JS2Rs. Hayden Chance wanting the traffic to help him a little bit here, as they both go by the Iron Lynx car.
It didn't really, did it?
No.
It's a while before they've got any more help. The next traffic to come is the number 29 car, the third place car in JS2R, a little way down the road, David Cossonel. So it's going to be down to the battle between the two JS P4s to determine this position. Still no news from race control of any incoming penalties. Romain Favre, by the way, his pace at the moment absolutely excellent. The only man on track on the 2 minutes for the lap. He's 2.4 seconds ahead of the previously absolutely charging Eco Segre. This bodes well for this season, Johnny. We've had a couple of seasons of the Ligier European Series with an absolutely dominant front runner. It isn't like that in 2024. These positions having to be fought for and fought hard.
So yeah, contact between the 4 and the 66 still being looked at, which obviously involves one of these two cars. That was Pedro Moreno into the rear of Ben Casely. Now Hayden Chance wanting to go to the second lane of Senior rather than the natural apex. Car actually dealt with that reasonably well. Can he go all the way around the outside at Beausset? Again, sowing the seed of doubt really in Pedro Moreno's mind. That actually any meaningful intent, but if he can get Moreno out of his rhythm and slightly offline into Bandor corner, Hayden Chance is trying to go too abreast with his teammate,
cracking stuff
all the way around the circuit here and nearly making it work.
This has been a really stellar race for the Ligier European Series, principally in the JS P4 class. Little too much contact for comfort maybe at times, but some great races as Hayden Chance gets a little bit sideways. He's going to get the power down though. Is it going to be quick enough to trouble The number 66 car, Pedro Moreno, don't think so. Just lost a bit of ground in getting the power down out to the final turn.
Clearly Hayden happy with the car doing that though beneath his seat with the tail wagging, and he coped with it well. Again, it looks a touch unstable, but I wonder whether both Hayden and his teammate Theo Mercouris are happy for a car to be wayward, but not that wayward, because he was right over the curb on the exit of turns 1 and 2 and had to get out of the power.
Bad news there for Hayden Chance is going to turn into good news, because it's a drive-through penalty for the car ahead of him, Pedro Moreno, for causing that collision with Ben Casely. So that is going to drop him out of contention here. That will lose him, what is that? I think at least 3 places, Johnny.
I did think, unfortunately for Pedro Moreno, that was only going to go one way, because Ben Casely, the innocent party, and so it's proved from various different angles to the race direction crew.
I would say, by the way, Eco Segre, as we watch these two battling away, is catching the race leader again. That gap is under 2 seconds, only 5 minutes to go, but last time around took half a second out of Romain Favre's lead. That isn't done.
No, well, you could say that about so many other battles up and down the order, and you fight until you see that checkered flag. Just over 5 minutes away now. Moreno starting to dominate, continuing to dominate in JS2 Rs versus the joint championship leader Lewis Stern. David Cosenel looking like having a good result as well for Pegasus Racing in the number 29 car that he shares with Julien Schell.
Nel de Cunha has just been dealt a drive-through penalty for track limits.
So Noé de Cunha, again, a championship leader coming into this Le Castellet Heat.
It's not been a good day for that number 50 car.
No, together with teammate Antoine Lupescu.
Pedro Moreno taking that drive-through now, and that will cost that team a shot at what could end up being a podium position. Drops behind Ben Casely, will drop also behind Ian Aguilera, who's recovering fast, by the way. Just looking, he might catch Casely by the end of this race. Ian Aguilera is pouring on the pressure. There's another of the JS P4s comes by as well. That is Alain Fulger, so drops him from 4th down to 8th place, that drive-through penalty. This is our race leader, meanwhile, in JS2R. Clement Moreno has driven away from Louis Stern. You can see the Pegasus Racing car, the white and blue car in the background, 5 seconds back, and it's a further 16 seconds back to David Cosenel in the 3rd place car and the 2nd of the Pegasus Racing JS2Rs. This one looks fairly comfortable, 3.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, starting to settle down a touch more in JS2R, those gaps stabilising or indeed continuing to open up. As Pedro Moreno now will want to just work his way up the order as much as he can. Only 3 more minutes on the clock. The first car clearly inside is Alain Fulger for smart driving and causing Fulger to adopt his line down the Mistral straight, but should be able to pick him off relatively easily. I can't imagine that damage to the rear left corner is helping, though. The car travel through the air on these faster parts of the circuit. It will be gulping in air rather than allowing the car to travel through it efficiently.
Effective, tiny little air brake, isn't it?
Yeah, and therefore making the car rather unbalanced as well, to add to the difficulties. But Moreno, 2 significant hold-ups. The first, obviously, the contacts when he and Theo Mercouris got together and needed to pit outside of the pit stop window for essential repair work. As now the 2 class leaders find one another on the racetrack. Romain Favre picking off Clement Moreno to put a lap on the JS2R leader.
So many little storylines here. Here is the number 31 car making their way. ANS Motorsport with Clement Moreno to what at the moment looks like a relatively comfortable win, but he's dropped time on that last lap. Quite a significant chunk at that. Don't think significant in terms of the lead, but what was 5 seconds is now 3.6, so maybe a little bit of a moment.
Well, no, what he did was he stayed well off the racing line at Virage de l'Hôtel to allow the 2 leading JS P4s through.
It was down to 3.6 before that.
Well, 40 seconds through the first sector compared to 37 for Lewis Stern. So there's at least 2 seconds accounted for there.
So Louis Stern, 3.4 seconds. Don't think it's going to come down much more than that. This will be the penultimate lap for the race leader. Romain Favre, by the way, has responded to the charge from Eco Segre. That gap has stabilised again at just under 2 seconds, but one minor mistake and everything could change. Is it going to be Romain Favre for Inter-Europol competition, or could it be A&S Motorsport and Eco Segre, who's been in the mix for the entire race, Johnny, whether or not it's been with the Inter-Europol car or with the Team Virage cars earlier in the race?
Over the line they will go with just under a minute left. A lap time currently is around about 2 minutes for the JS P4s. So 2 seconds, but the nice thing for Romain Favre is that he can keep an eye on Eco Segre's approaches, advances if they happen in the door mirrors. But otherwise, this is a manageable gap, I would think, of 2 seconds. And I think from Clement Moreno's point of view, again, on occasion, he can look back to see the threat from Louis Stern. But it seemed to me that the sensible thing to do, rather than fight JS P4s a lap ago into that technical section at turns 3, 4 and 5, just take an extra wide line and allow them by.
Indeed. Last lap is called. Clock about to expire. It is Romain Favre over 2 seconds for the first time in a little wee while now. Still no sign, by the way, of any penalties being called. We'll see if there's any post-race adjustments. So at the moment, it is still going to be Chu Ting in third place with Monza Garage. Not going to be caught on track by Hayden Chance. 12 seconds to good. So been good pace from the second driver in the Monza Garage car. Could have been in contention with this group were it not for those 2 5-second penalties. 10 seconds back from second place, that third place car here.
Just a slight bit of porpoising I noticed from Eco Segre. That's again an indication of how fast these cars are going. It's very easy for the camera looking straight down the Mistral to lessen the speed, the foreshortening effect, but they are really hammering into senior corner. And that makes that moment for Ian Aguilera earlier on in the piece all the more scary. Thankfully, he was able to come away from that with no damage to the car.
Is that a drive-through penalty for the second place car in JS2 R?
Car 18, Louis Stern, must respect track limits at turn 14.
Okay.
Yeah, is the message, thankfully. As now to the pit wall will go Romain Favre to get as close to the celebrating team as possible. It's Poland's Inter-Europol competition and French driver Romain Favre, who will win by 1.5 seconds over fellow Frenchman Eco Segre, and then a much bigger gap back to Monza Garage number 71 for Cho Chun-Ting and his teammate Jamie Winslow.
Clement Moreno brings the A&S Motorsport number 31 JS2R home for a comfortable win over Louis Stern and David Cossonel. It will be a Pegasus Racing 2-3.
And that's, you reckon, the first ever win in the Ligiers?
I'm pretty certain they did a couple of races last year with, trying to think what Daniel Ali's father's name was, but the car back for a full season with Romain Favre.
Adam Ali?
Might well be Adam.
Yeah.
There he is in the garage, actually.
Speaking of the devil.
And I'm pretty certain that's another class with a tick in the box for the Racing Bakers. There you go, Smasher Fassbender. There is Ali Senior standing behind him. Excellent stuff there from Romain Favre. Had to soak up the pressure in the latter part of the race, had to apply the pressure in the first part of that race. James Winslow congratulating the Inter-Europol team. Team Virage at the moment, after dominating the early part of that race, come away without, as things stand, a podium finish, Johnny.
Yeah, and that will be frustrating because they know they've got quick cars.
But somewhat self-inflicted.
Agreed. One driver on another, and then the attacked car in the form of the number 66 then made an error themselves as well. Though it was different drivers, wasn't it? It was Berriot that had the contact from Theo Mercouris.
Correct.
Pedro Moreno then took over and had his contact with the back of Ben Casey's car. So the real innocent party is Jeronimo Berriot, a thought for the Colombian driver there, who bailed out halfway through during the pit stop window.
At the moment, well, 4th place is flagged at the moment for the number 1 car. Wait and see if there's any post-race adjustment. If we do hear of those, we should bring you that for race 2 today, Johnny.
Yeah.
And that is what time?
Oh, now there's a question. I will have to look at my notes. I've made them. It's just a question of where I've filed them. It will be a 1:25 start for a 1:30. Or we'll start at 1 for a 1:30 start time. So at 9 o'clock on the dot, clearly everyone had been fueled sufficiently, because it was almost like a kind of mid-afternoon race. They were all wide awake and raring to go. Down the inside, very nearly our eventual race winner, Romain Favre, on the 2 Virage front row starters. To the high side and right over the curbs, Ian Aguilera. And in the meantime, James Winslow had straight-lined the first S-bend at Verrerie, but didn't obey the instruction at turn 1 and would subsequently get a 5-second penalty for that. Another lock-up into turn 3, this time for the number 77 of Ian Aguilera. And a horrible start to the meeting for Gianfranco Barbara, who had contact in his M Racing number 69 car, removing the bonnet lid, the engine cover, and we wouldn't see that car for the rest of the race. Scrapping amongst the 2 Team Virage machines would begin in earnest, as Sita Van Mert sadly hit the retirements list far earlier than she would have wished as well, stopping 2/3 of the way down the Mistral straight. That was the merest of glances to the rear left wheel arch of Jeronimo Berriot's car, but the problem manifested itself very quickly indeed, and that bent bodywork on the tyre causing it to overheat. Berriot would need to pit very early on then, and for a new tyre, and then would not need to come in for a mandatory stop after that. Superb duelling between all these 4 cars, sneaking his way up the inside, James Winslow, but misjudging it slightly, and into the side of Eco Segre, who then had to go to the escape road at turn 5, Virage du Camp. Romain Favre removing the bollard, which tends not to last too long in any session. And then this horrible sideways moment for Ian Aguilera into senior corner, again as a result of contact with the number 6 of Eco Segre. It left quite a bit of debris in the middle of the road as well, but thankfully not on the racing line. Verrerie corner, the scene of lots of door mirror to door mirror action. Romain Favre sliding his way from one side of the road to the other and nearly taking the 71 car of Monza Garage and Jamie Winslow with him. Then Ben Casey sneaking through on the inside of Yuki Tanaka. And again, it was side by side between Romain Favre and Eco Segre. This was Segre's big chance to take the race lead, but he couldn't quite make it work over the curbs and needed to either hit the anchors or certainly get off the throttle. And then that would wave Romain Favre into eventually a 5-second lead or so. Side by side again. This was where Clement Moreno was able to take the JS2 R lead away from the Pegasus car, number 18, being driven by Lewis Stern at the time. Romain Favre and Eco Segre, that's an indication of the gap later on in the race. And eventually, the Inter-Europol competition crew can celebrate a significant victory in the Ligier European Series with their driver, Romain Favre, and Clement Moreno taking the win in JS2 R. And a convincing one at that, ahead of Lewis Stern. But he will be pleased with championship points after second place finish. And here are a rundown then of the results. In fact, it was 1.5 seconds for Romain Favre just getting off the throttle a touch towards the end to celebrate with the team. He had been circulating with probably a 2.5-second lead for the majority of it. Romain Favre ahead of Eco Segre, and then it is Zhou Chunting and James Winslow completing the podium for Monza Garage. Ahead of the championship leaders coming into this race meeting, Theo Mercouris and Hayden Chance. Clement Moreno with another victory for ANS Motorsport in JS2 R ahead of Lewis Stern and Paul Lancher, his new teammate. Julian Schell and David Cosenel making it a decent result for Pegasus, a 2-3. Cindy Goudet just off the podium for M Racing in the number 53 car. And as Graham has trailed ahead too, there is a second 60-minute race for the Ligier European Series to look forward to. The other side of the Le Mans Cup qualifying. So we'll be on air at 1:25 for a 1:30 start and a 60-minute race, again with a pit stop partway through to either switch driver or just sit with much patience for 2.5 minutes or so before being waved back into the race. And I have to say, if that starting race here at Circuit Paul Ricard is anything to indicate, then it's going to be a superb event later on today. A pick your winner, because we know Virage have got some very quick cars, but they will have to stay out of trouble amongst themselves and from the race directors as well. So join us later on after lunch, 1:25. We're back. Bye for now.
Nico Segre. Nico Segre. 3 à la deuxième place. Et enfin, les vainqueurs, les lauréats du team VH, notamment, c'est dans tous les cas l'Inter-Européenne compétition avec Romain Favre, que nous allons retrouver. Romain Favre, vainqueur accompagné par le team manager, notamment de l'Inter-Européenne compétition, accompagné bien sûr par bilan d'homme, bien évidemment au pied de ce podium. Et en l'honneur du team vainqueur, bien évidemment, l'hymne va retentir. Voilà pour l'hymne des vainqueurs du côté de l'Inter-Européenne compétition. Et ce podium, bien évidemment, photo, souvenir, les trophées, bien évidemment, pour les lauréats de ce premier podium en catégorie JSP4 en Ligier European Series. Première course de ce week-end. Derniers instants, dernière photo. Et dernier sourire avant de les retrouver tout à l'heure pour la deuxième course du week-end. Nous allons passer à la prochaine catégorie dans quelques instants. Toujours en catégorie JSP4, on va passer à la catégorie Pro-Am. Catégorie JSP4 avec les Pro-Am, avec les licenciés du team VH, c'est Lucas Medina et Pascalis Paris Terakis. Umberto D'Amato. Voilà pour les vainqueurs, accompagnés bien sûr par le team manager du côté du team VH. Que l'on retrouve à la première marche et première place de cette catégorie JSP4 Pro-Am. Et en l'honneur des vainqueurs, l'hymne bien évidemment va retentir en l'honneur du team VH. La suite, bien évidemment, va passer dans quelques instants avec un prochain podium, toujours du côté des JSP4, la catégorie AM qui va être récompensée dans quelques instants. Catégorie JSP4 avec la catégorie AM qui va être récompensée sur la première marche avec le licencié du Pegasus Racing, c'est Yuki Tanaka, vainqueur catégorie JSP4 AM. Il va être rejoint par son team manager notamment du côté du Pegasus Racing. Voilà pour compléter ce beau podium d'équipe. Applaudissements du public, dernière photo bien sûr souvenir. Célébration avec les trophées bien évidemment du côté de cette catégorie JSP4 AM avec Yuki Tanaka du Pegasus Racing, vainqueur de cette catégorie. présent, après la catégorie JS P4, nous allons passer à la catégorie JS2 R avec dans quelques instants le classement général et le podium classement général qui va être récompensé. Podium catégorie JS2R avec ceux qui prennent la 3e place, les licenciés du Pegasus Racing, Julien Schell et David Cossanel, 3e. Ils vont être rejoints par les seconds de ce classement catégorie JS2R, les licenciés du Pegasus Racing, en la présence de Louis Stern et Paul Lancher, 12e. Et la victoire catégorie JS2R pour le licencié notamment de l'ELMS Motorsport Clément Moreno, vainqueur catégorie JS2R. Accompagné par le team manager de l'ELMS Motorsport Clément Moreno qui monte sur la plaque marche du podium et en l'honneur du team vainqueur, l'hymne va retentir. Français du team vainqueur et salut du public, applaudissements du public pour saluer bien évidemment ce podium catégorie JS2R. Voilà pour ce podium avec bien sûr les vainqueurs et leurs dauphins. Célébré comme ils sont avec les trophées Bibendum bien évidemment qui vous fait lui aussi son salut amical. Toujours dans la catégorie dans un instant JS2R, on va passer à la catégorie Pro-Am. Catégorie Pro-Am, donc du côté du JS2R avec ceux qui remportent cette catégorie, les lauréats du Pegasus Racing avec Julien Schell et David Cossanel que nous retrouvons sur le podium et sur la flotte marche catégorie JS2R Pro-Am. Avec le team manager également, s'il est dans les parages, bien évidemment, pour le Pegasus Racing. Venez nous rejoindre pour fêter bien évidemment avec vos licenciés ce podium. On en a oublié la casquette et voilà, qui chose réparée pour ce podium catégorie JS2R Pro-Am avec les vainqueurs, les trophées Bibendum bien évidemment et la photo souvenir de ce premier podium du week-end du côté du Ligier European Series. Et dernier podium de cette première course dans un instant, nous allons passer à la catégorie AM, toujours du côté du JS2R. Podium JS2R AM avec les vainqueurs de cette catégorie, le licencié de l'ELMS Motorsport, c'est Clément Moreno, vainqueur. Accompagné par le team manager bien évidemment de l'ELMS Motorsport. Pour célébrer tout ceci sur la plaque marche du podium. Applaudissements du public pour ce podium JS2 R avec Clément Moreno sur la pleine marche du podium accompagné par le team manager représentant de l'équipe de l'ELMS Motorsport pour ce dernier podium. On se retrouvera tout à l'heure en début d'après-midi pour célébrer bien sûr le deuxième podium du week-end en Ligier European Series. À tout à l'heure.